Hello, 6th grade. We are going to talk about Chapter 5, Section 7, Multiplying and Dividing Decimal Numbers. So, when you multiply decimals, you need to first multiply the decimal numbers the same way that you would multiply whole numbers. Then you count the total number of decimal places in each factor. After you do that, that's the total number of decimal places for your product. Now remember, the factors are the numbers that you multiply by, and the product is the answer to a multiplication problem. So, here's an example. If you have the problem 1 and 13/100 times 4/100, you first put your problem into a column format. So you would multiply it, set it up like that. So then you take your number and you would multiply it like you would 113 times 4. And you count up. For 1 and 13/100, you can see that there is 2 decimal places, and 4/100 you have 2 decimal places. You add up those 2 plus 2 would be a total of 4 decimal places. Then you multiply 113 times 4 and you get 452. After you do that, you can see you have to take your product or your final answer and multiply or move over 4 decimal places. As you can see here, you always start at the very end of the number and you move over 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. Now you can see here there was not another space for a decimal, so you would add in a 0 to kind of hold your place. So you use 0 as a placeholder. So you can see you move the total decimal places to the left and you add a 0 as a place marker if needed. And that's how you multiply decimals. Now, when you divide decimals, it's very similar. So when you divide decimals by a decimal number, you multiply both the divisor and the dividend by the power of 10. That will make the divisor an integer. Now remember, an integer is no decimal numbers, and these are whole numbers. And here's your little reminder of you have your divisor is the number you're dividing by, and your dividend is the number being divided, and then that equals your quotient. So let's move on from there. So when you do that, you multiply by your power of 10, and then on both sides, both your divisor and your dividend. When you're done with that, you bring your decimal up, divide like you would normally divide to find your quotient. So, for example, we have the number 56 and 95/100 divided by 6 and 7/10. So I write the problem using a division box. Rewrite your problems. Then you can see here 6 and 7/10. In order to make this an integer, you need to multiply by 10. And this is the same thing. What you do to one side, you do to the other side. So you take 56 and 95/100 and you multiply it by 10. Now my little trick is you take it and I call it over, over, up. So I take this and I move it over 1, and then you take your dividend and you move it over 1, and then you would take your decimal number and bring it straight up. Then you don't have to worry about your decimal number anymore. So now you have the problem of 569 and 5/10 divided by 67. So you can see here that I had done it over here, over, over, and then I move my decimal number up, and then you divide like normal. So 67 goes into 569 8 times, multiply it through, 8 times 67 is 536, subtract, you get 33, bring down your 5. 67 times 5 is 335. And you have no remainder. So there is your how you divide by decimal numbers. So again, I think of it as over, over, up. And then you divide as normal, and you can see that 56 and 95 hundredths divided by 6 and 7 tenths equals 8 and 5 tenths as your total number. So, one other part of this is using zeros as placeholders. So, to find some quotients, you may need to use zeros as placeholders. So, for example, being placeholder in the dividend. So, my problem is 28 divided by 1 and 4 tenths. So first I would put it in my division box, and I have 28 divided by 1 and 4 tenths. Now here I don't have any decimal number, so I can add in a 0.0. It does not change the number, but I know that I have to multiply both sides by 10, so I have to insert that 0 as my placeholder. So now I go through and I do my normal division with decimals. And here it is. So I multiply it by 10, and I say over, and I move my decimal number up, and then I multiply. 14 into 280. So you say 14 goes in 28 two times, have minus 28 is 0, bring down your 0, and you have to actually put your 0 in your answer also. So you can see that now we have two place value holders as zeros. Now, here's more of placeholders using zeros as placeholders in your quotient. So for example, you have 55 thousandths divided by 2 and 5 tenths. So I set it up in my division box, and I see, okay, I need to multiply both sides by 10. So over, up. Now, we can see here that now I have to say 25. Well, it doesn't go into 0, and it doesn't go into 5, so I need to put that 0 in my quotient as a placeholder. Now I can say 25 goes into 55 two times. 2 times 25 is 50. 55 minus 50 is 5. And I had to add another 0 as a placeholder and bring that down. 25 goes into 50 two times with no remainders. So 55 thousandths divided by 2 and 5 tenths is 22 thousandths. So we will do some problems in class tomorrow regarding this and come with some questions. Good luck.